Hmm.
I hit a point in my career where I had the title, I was making very good money, I had flexibility, all of these things, but what I was lacking was fulfillment. And I really felt that I needed purpose. I needed to be feeling as though I was making an impact and making a difference.
Welcome to the It Matters podcast. I'm your host, Walter Perez, and let's dive in as we help you grow your mindset and elevate your leadership. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the It Matters podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about leadership, mindset, and personal growth. And I love bringing guests on where we can encourage you. And more specifically, I like to have guests that are exemplifying that in their life or in any arena that they're being called to lead. And so, as always, I've been looking forward to this next conversation. I'm excited to introduce to you Jocelyn Davison from Be Together. And we're going to unravel that a little bit today on the episode. But Jocelyn, welcome to the It Matters podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Walter. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm very excited to have this conversation and dive into all the things that matter.
Oh, I love it. And you and I met because we work in a building where it's a collaborative workspace. And you've been working out of this building for longer than I have, but that's how we met. And the first couple of interactions you and I had, I knew that I wanted to have a deeper conversation. So I appreciate you willing to have that.
Thank you. Yes, no, it's been so nice to connect with you, and the space that we get to operate in is pretty special and such a unique community environment, it's so nice to have all of these different creative, wonderful minds, and the conversations, you just never know where they're going to go when you run into people. So it's nice.
Oh, so true. Now, I do want to unpack what your business is all about, but before we get there, I know your company's been around for a number of years, since 2017, right? And but I just kind of want to know a little bit more about you. Like, how did you get into this space, and what what are you all about?
Yes, well, my journey to Be Together and entrepreneurship was certainly a winding path. I think is like most people's are, right? Like our life's journey is never a direct A to B point.
Right.
And so prior to starting the business, I worked in corporate for many years. I was with the company for roughly 16 years before I made the leap over here. And funny enough, when I started out at the company, it was a very small startup itself, and started out as you do in small businesses, you jump in wherever you need to be. So while I was hired as, as kind of a marketing role, I was doing everything from office admin, marketing, sales. I was in the warehouse packaging items up and shipping them out, and quality control and finishing items. So I had the very fortunate opportunity to see this business grow from, as I mentioned, a small startup into a multi-million dollar multinational company. And when I left, I probably could not have been further from what I'm doing now. I was the vice president of administration, and my role basically took in everything from finances. I was very heavily involved in all of the financials and the back end of the company and budgeting and those types of roles, as well as the purchasing and production scheduling with our factory and human resources, you name it. I had a very broad role, but very far from what I'm doing now. And over the years, there was always something about event planning that spoke to me. And in that way, I mean, even if I would see someone else, like see their job title being event planner or watch a movie with one in it, it was always something that ignited something in me. And I hit a point in my career where I had the title, I was making very good money, I had flexibility, all of these things, but what I was lacking was fulfillment. And I really felt that I needed purpose. I needed to be feeling as though I was making an impact and making a difference. And so I started the business on the side and built it to a point where I could financially responsibly leave that role and go full time into the business. And so, yes, I started it part-time 2017, went full time into it early in 2018, and have never looked back, really. So here I am today in a very different world, in a very different role. And honestly,
Wow.
I feel like a different person. Like I almost don't recognize who I was as based on like where I am now and how I feel now.
It's such a beautiful backstory, though, because it goes to show that we grow, right? We evolve in time, and we got to be willing to learn from other experiences, and you know they're almost like it's stepping stools to be able to get to the next level. And I also love how you mentioned that you started it part time, because you know sometimes there's this idea in entrepreneurship is like, well, you gotta go in all in both feet, and you gotta make it work, and we don't have enough grace on ourselves to say, hey, it's okay to try it out and figure it out along the way, right?
Absolutely. And I think too, one of the interesting things that happened during that part-time period where where I started the business was figuring out I should say exactly because it continues to evolve, but figuring out what the business would look like and what types of offerings and experiences and even what types of clients do I want to be working with that are going to fulfill me and bring me joy. And that was kind of one of those, conversations I had with myself as I was taking on some projects where I just was not feeling that fulfillment in the first year was, okay, if I'm looking to leave a fantastic role where I'm not fulfilled, why would I go into a business where I continue to kind of perpetuate that? So it was a great way to discover that. And, I know when we start our businesses, we don't always have the luxury of being super selective. Sometimes we need to take on projects that maybe aren't our ideal.
Right.
However, I think it's an important element for us to get to understand about ourselves so that we are building a business that from like an energy and fulfillment perspective are something that are going to continue to fuel us.
Right. Right. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think it's great to show that we can pursue fulfillment, and being aware of that is important, but realizing that it's not just a click of a switch on and off and you're going to be fulfilled. Sometimes you have to wrestle through that tension, if I can put it that way,
Yes.
and work through it. But I mean, I love to chat with people about not settling either, though, right? I mean, just don't accept your reality. Like, there is so much, in this podcast, we love to talk about unleashing your human potential. And
Yes.
that's one way of like, okay, well, let's work through that. And then you end up hearing stories like yours where you're on this end now.
Exactly. And I think, to your point about the not settling, I think that that's such an important piece. And I think it's something that we do need to explore for ourselves and push ourselves because, there are some people who, when we take our personal and professional lives, they have professional fulfillment in their role, working for someone else. Like it doesn't mean that entrepreneurship is, or, starting your own business is for everyone.
Right.
You can absolutely find fulfillment in your career as that 9 to 5, if we want to refer to it that way.
Yep.
And, maybe there are those other external elements, whether that be volunteering or, different hobbies and things that we take up that can give us that, maybe if we're feeling a little bit of lack of fulfillment. However, sometimes it is more significant. And, truthfully, as I was wrestling with that career change, I was going to therapy because I needed to find that mental clarity to make a decision from a healthy space. And when I had the therapist said to me, she was like, well, maybe you do just need like a volunteer opportunity. Like maybe that's going to give you your fulfillment. You don't necessarily need to get that from your career. Well, number one, I didn't see that therapist anymore because I didn't like that answer. I found someone who was a better fit. But all that to say, I think being honest with ourselves and understanding, in our professional lives, is our career fulfilling us, or are we simply going through the motions?
Yep.
And I mean, we don't have to. Like, that is the beautiful thing about the number of opportunities and roles that and organizations that we can become involved with as an employee is we can love what we do. Like, this is a thing. We're not in that old adage of, like, well, we just have to punch the clock and do our time. Like, life is too short and work takes up such a significant component. We should not be settling if we don't have to, like we need to push ourselves and explore that, because like living a life of fulfillment and purpose, it comes so much from that.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that. A word that kind of popped into my mind as you were saying that is sometimes people are afraid to take a risk. But I was chatting with somebody not too long ago here, and I said, well, like, if you stay in your job and you're unfulfilled, that's a risk in itself too, though. And we just have to remember that. It's just what type of level of risk do you want to take, and are you gonna be fulfilled at the end of the day? And so I'm glad you went there with that, because I'm excited and I'm interested in just encouraging people to have that real conversation with themselves and go, okay, are you truly being honest, right, of where you're at?
Absolutely. And it is scary. It's, but to your point, like, it is a risk, and it's not making a decision is a decision in and of itself. And I think the first time I heard that, it was an eye opener for me, because sometimes it feels very safe to just stay as is. Like, okay, well, if I don't make a decision, if I just kind of continue status quo, it's fine. Like, it feels so safe for us. But that is a decision, because we're saying no, we're choosing to stay in this path and not pursuing other things that could be these, like magical moments for us. And so we do need to push ourselves and know our boundaries. But I mean, to be complacent and to stay in that comfort zone it's sad when I think of, because I was that person to just continue like head down, and to know what can be on the other side when we do take the time to explore and get real with ourselves. It's pretty powerful.
Oh, and it's so powerful because like again, we love to chat about on maximizing your potential, right? And the thing about that is that you have to step out, and the funny thing about potential, right? I've said this often. It's like you never really truly reach your potential, because we're growing beings, human beings, right? And there's always little room to elevate and to learn more and to grow. And so I like that you use the word explore. Like, don't be afraid to explore that, and know that there's so much more to offer, right? And I think that the world needs people that step into their potential and give, maybe they have a specific calling or passion or whatever it is to bring it forth.
Absolutely. And I think, on this journey for me, the things that I have discovered about myself and the passions that I have learned that if I would have stayed in the old way and on that old path, I would never ever have learned these things that like spark me in so many different ways, both personally and professionally. And I honestly, like, who would have known that just, kind of being stuck in a rut and being unfulfilled would actually, like, I don't know, the webs that it impacts your life in so many different ways. And I just am so truly grateful that I have had my eyes opened and my heart open to, whether it's causes or organizations or people that I've met, and, challenges that come with owning a business. Like, all of that has been so incredible. I will never, ever regret the decision that I made.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hey, you just mentioned about people that you've met. So something I noticed about your company is that you are a co-founder.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about that, because you're collaborating and building your business here. And so, yeah.
Yes. So when I first started the business, I was a solopreneur, And late in 2020, I started conversations with Rebecca. Rebecca's the co-founder of the business. And we started having these conversations. We were actually approached about a different opportunity. And we got to having these conversations and, again, like exploring what Rebecca wanted and what she was looking to do, given kind of changes in her world because of COVID, and what the business was doing. And we ended up partnering at that point and have been working together ever since. So I guess we're coming up now on, well, we're in our fifth year, and it has been such an incredible partnership. The way that we work together and the way that our skills complement one another and how we can approach projects together, and the ideas and brainstorming, like everything it's been such a gift, honestly, to have the experience to work alongside Rebecca as a business partner. Like it's been pretty incredible.
Wow, that's amazing. And I gotta tell you, it just shows, I guess we'll use the word maturity in you, and as a leader, the strength that you bring to that you initially started on your own as a solopreneur, and now you elevate and adjust to having a co-founder. Like that, there's a change in that, and it could be a challenging thing, but I mean, everything I hear you say right now, it has been for the best and for the better, right? And so it's so neat to see how you, as a leader, were willing to make that change because you knew it was going to pay off in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And I think that you're right. Like it does come with challenges, because where for 3 years or 3.5 years, I was very much in the zone of making the decisions. Like the decisions I'm making were mine to make and impacted me. And so kind of in that routine of it. And then obviously when it becomes a co-founding, a partner situation, that needs to change. And I truly have always tried to be so mindful of that, especially in the beginning, because there's those things where, you make a decision, you're like, oh, nope, okay, cannot be doing this. It's not like I'm not in this kind of like siloed area anymore. And so it's been a learning experience, but in the greatest way. And I think too, like our ability to respectfully challenge each other and have difficult conversations, we always create the space for that, because prior to going into business together, we were friends. And so it's been very important to us to maintain our friendship and our business partnership, and knowing that, well, of course they're interlinked, they are also separate entities. And I think we have done a great job of still continuing to nurture both. And, there's sometimes people are like, oh, like going into business with a friend. And I think that, being aware, like with that friendship, can you still have difficult conversations about the business things? Like, can you still do that? And I think with the ability to do that, you absolutely can. But if you're going to shy away from those conversations because you don't want to impact the friendship, then that's kind of got to be a flag for you that maybe it's not going to be the right way. But we've done a really incredible job of being able to navigate all of that and be so honest and kind and respectful to one another, like throughout everything. So it's been a great partnership.
Oh, that's beautiful, because of course we've heard of stories where partnerships don't work, and we hear the horror stories there, but like the reality is that there is great partnership stories as well, and you guys are an example of that. And I love how you're encouraging us to not shy away from those tough conversations and to make sure that communication, right? That's probably one of the big things that we all need to always work on, whether in business, in marriage, in friendship, whatever it is. It never ends, and so that's just something that we have to continue to work on. And we're gonna learn, we're gonna fail, right? We got to work through those. And
absolutely.
So tell me, maybe explain to our audience here, like, what is the mission of Be Together? Like, I don't want people to assume that they think they hear the word event company, but like, what, in your words, like, how do you explain that?
So Be Together, we really do exist to help heart-centered organizations create these opportunities for meaningful moments and connection. And so, yes, we're event planners, but amongst other things, but we really do want to focus on bringing people together. And that's been something that's so important to us. And whether we're working with a nonprofit or charity or a community-based organization or a corporation or an institution, I think that kind of core value with our client of wanting to create moments and memories for people and experiences has been something that's, been central for us. And so that's I guess like the premise of us. But yes, so event planning, we do event design and decor, and then we have an event rental side of our business, which I know you've seen me hauling the chairs and setting up before.
I have.
And we also work on purpose and engagement and team building. So we have a lot of elements, but all kind of bringing it back to the central focus of like bringing people together with meaning and purpose.
So good. So I want to point out, because your name is Be Together, but it's BEE. And
Yes.
so where did that come from, and what was the inspiration behind that?
So we had a few, I guess, like few pieces of inspiration behind the Be Together with the, B as in bumblebee. And so one, Rebecca loves bees, loves them. And so as we were, coming up with this name and trying to think of these things that like what resonates with us, and her love of bees, and we're like, oh, like we can really work with this and play with this. Number one, the meaning with bees, and like you look at a beehive and how everyone is together in this community, right? It's a community where they're all working together towards this common goal. So that was obviously a part of it. They're hard workers. They, just like how they all work together was a big part of it. And then another thing was obviously being at the creative hive, being that. So we're like, okay, so this integrates really nicely.
Yeah.
And as we started to play on the word be, it naturally, we had a list of things, but the one that really popped out was Be Together, because again, going back to that core value and kind of central mission and vision for us of bringing people together. And so it all felt like this beautifully constructed word that was going to be very like representative of what we do. And the number of bee related items that now cross our world and that we are gifted is really like, it's pretty incredible.
I bet. That's so cool. And it's been very clear to me as I've, spoken with you, even in this conversation, or if you explore your website, like togetherness is definitely a word that is that very dominant in all around your business and everything that encompasses that. And something that really caught my eye was that you were talking about celebrating togetherness. And I'd like to kind of go a little bit deeper in that and what does that mean to you?
I think that one thing that we have learned and have witnessed in events is there is that magical time when you are either attending an event, hosting an event, as us as planners, when we get to witness them, there is that such a special moment, and the energy in the room when you're bringing a group of people together in this well thought out, well executed, well planned event. It's the intangible, but it's everybody is aware of it. It's like when you have those moments when you have brought people together and you leave and you are full.
Yeah.
It's the ability to create those moments and have people leave a space or an experience and have that full heart and like that buzzing mind in the best way, because it's, whether it's you've learned something, you've met someone, you have these like plethora of ideas and things like spiraling through your head. And it's like the adrenaline in the best way. Like to be a part of creating that and then to witness that happening and to see that kind of glow about people when they leave a really well-intentioned, purposeful event is something for us that like, yeah, the ability to put that together and witness to it is, it's such an, like, I feel honored to be able to witness that and to see that and to be a part of creating that for other people.
I am 100% jiving with you on everything you just said. I don't know if I told you this, Jocelyn, but I used to DJ, and
Oh,
I specifically did weddings, Christmas parties, all that kind of stuff. And so, having that experience back in the day, I remember feeling the same emotions as what you just described, because you went, I contributed to making this environment one that people can remember and feel special in, and so on, right?
yeah.
And I also think about, like, I've done my share of attending conferences, different type of events like that. And I mean, actually, my business, we put on events as well, which
Yes.
I am continuing to learn on how to create that environment, because there is something special about when you bring people together and you allow them to feel alive, I guess, in that.
Absolutely. And I think, the power of community is so important. And I think, I don't even like to say the COVID word, but like if we look back at that period of time and that isolation
Mm,
and that craving that everybody had to be reconnected with people in their lives, because I think it's something that I know for myself, and I'll speak on my own behalf, is you take it for granted. You
yep.
see your friends, you run into people, you have conversations, you go to events, you do all of these things, you're around people. But then when that's taken away and you have that true appreciation for what it means to be in a space with people that you really connect with and can have some wonderful, meaningful conversations with. I think
Mm,
that was just such a huge reminder to how important togetherness is. And like,
yep.
we are not in this alone. We should not be wanting to be in this alone. And it's just the power from being able to have conversations and connect with another human being is like I think everyone has experienced that and can feel the importance after you've had that encounter.
Oh, so true. Yeah, the word community is something that I love throwing around as well, because there's something special that happens. It's hard for me to believe or to think that as human beings we were not, created to be in
Yes.
community and living life, because there's something special that happens. Yes, I know that people can be challenging and difficult, and there's different things, but when we give it a try, though, when we give it a try and really, um, bring to the table or to the community, and we're not just takers, it's incredible what happens in that.
Absolutely. It really is. And there is so much power that comes from that togetherness and what we can actually create or accomplish or impact when we are together. And it's just so interesting how, and I don't know if this is a Canadian cultural thing. Like I know it's not like this everywhere where everyone's kind of in these separate little silos. I said it before, but when we kind of expand that and go beyond just living within our own little like box of people, it's the things that you can learn. And that has probably been one of the biggest things for me is like the
Mm,
eye-opening conversations to just like beyond my little bubble of people,
yeah.
like what is going on out there, what people are doing, and then like that want to be a part of that and you know give back or make a difference in that area. I think
Mm,
it's so important to, again, like I don't know if we want to call it a comfort zone, but just to step outside what our normal day-to-day bubble is and connect with other people and learn new things is such an important part of being a member of a community and a part of community and society as far as I'm concerned.
100% agree. I think the word that really kind of pops up to me is the word experience. You get to experience new things. And that's one thing I noticed about, even just in our conversation, but even what you guys are all about, is that you're more than just helping somebody plan an event. You're truly, outside of all the amazing things you've already mentioned with community and all that, is that you're creating an experience that people are going to leave with going, I'm different because of it. And so would you say that's definitely one of those driving points for you in the business? Like you're trying to create an experience that people are just gonna be moved by?
Absolutely. And I think that most people have a lot of competing demands on their time. There is a million and one things that anybody could be doing at any given time. We have personal commitments, professional, all of these things that need us. And so when the way that we look at it is when we have this opportunity and we are asking people to take a day, an evening, a weekend away from their families, away from their businesses, away from their loved ones, whatever that might look like. Oftentimes asking them to spend money, whether it's to buy a ticket or to support a cause. We want to
Mm,
be able to deliver an experience to them, give them something that is going to last so that when, number one, it gives them a reason to want to commit their time to that and commit their resources to it. But then, yes, exactly to your point, when they leave, that there's that lasting feeling because it's the quote, I think, is it a Maya Angelou quote? The people will, they may forget what you said or, what you wore, those types of things, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So when we're given creative freedom to design these events or these experiences that are truly unique, where we're allowed to kind of push the status quo or do something different than what's always been done, those are moments and opportunities that we really like, we come alive in, because it's so much fun to think like, what are those kind of wow moments for people, those elements of surprise almost, where it's people will be like, I did not expect that, whether it's the
mm,
decor or a performer or a moment within the event. So yeah, it's creating those experiences on multiple levels is something that like is so important for us and something that we really love to be able to do.
mm. That's so good. So this word creative, right? I mean, I think that we are creative beings. I think some of us are needing to exercise that a bit more and allow ourselves to get free. But when we get to be creative and everything kind of that you touched on, you really get to thrive in that. You really get to elevate yourself. And I just like, how important is it for you to see people thrive? I know that there's different ways to impact people. I mean, there's the part where you're helping them put something together. There's the outcome. There's a lot of moving parts in this, but when you invite people to be part of that process, it's incredible what you see out of people.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I think that, you know, creating the opportunity or the environment within which people can thrive. So whether that's as we're working on an event and working with different vendors and giving them the opportunity or giving them a platform where they can do what they are best at and show up and give their best and have that opportunity, I think, is something that is important. Or if it's working with the client to take that stress and pressure off of them so that they can show up at an event and do what they are there to do, right? Like, I mean, they don't need to be worrying about, is the next person who's supposed to go on stage, are they there and ready to go? Like, they are there to
Mm,
make connections and really build or enhance relationships. And that's what's going to allow them to thrive, their businesses to thrive. So when we can do something to support that and create the environment for people to do that, I think it's something it's it's important to us to be able to have that and create that for others.
mm, so true. So when I think about being creative as well, and please tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. I would think that you're a detailed person, because when you're dealing with other, people's events or things that they want to accomplish, you're almost becoming the expert in those details that they may not catch. Am I correct in saying that? Is that something that you've had to be pretty strong in? Have you always been strong in that area, or what?
Yes, absolutely. The details. It's it's kind of an exaggeration that an event has a million details, but also not.
Mm,
There are so many. There's obviously like the large pieces, and then within that, each of those breaks out down into such small details, but they're so
mm,
important to the overall experience. And I think that it's maybe one of the more common assumptions, or if that, yeah, maybe that's the right word, is just like events are easy. Anybody can do them. And sure, anyone can rent a space or open their doors and have an event, but to do it well and to ensure that you are getting the most out of it and meeting those goals, whatever the goals for that event may be, whether it is building relationships or if it's
mm,
raising money for a cause or giving back to the community in some way, being so clear on those and then designing an event and ensuring that all of the details are taken care of so that when event day comes, it goes as smoothly as possible
right.
and that your attendees aren't distracted by the things that have been missed or overlooked. And so, I mean, I've
Mm,
I've always been a fairly detailed person. I love a spreadsheet. And so, I mean, we have like for our events, we have this master document that has everything from agendas and budgets and like
yeah.
minute by minute run of shows and the setup
Wow.
plans and the teardowns and like all of the pieces that need to be orchestrated are that's I mean I love it.
Yeah.
I love bringing all of those
Mm,
tiny pieces and orchestrating this event playing out as seamlessly as possible. And
yeah.
that's what we're here for. We're here because we've done so many events. We know those
Mm,
little and big details that make a big difference. And we've learned what matters and what needs to be, what really needs your eye on it and what you need to ensure is in place. And of course, with any event, there's no matter how well planned it is, there's always going to be a hiccup. Like that
of
is,
course.
but we're solutions based. And
Mm,
so there's a lot of thinking on our feet and figuring it out in the moment. And it's usually, I will say, usually it's a good challenge. You're like, okay, we figured it out. We did it. We've overcome it. So
mm.
yeah, details do matter and they are there.
There you have it. Details do matter. And I feel maybe the need right now to say, if anybody's listening and going, well, that's nice, Jocelyn, but I'm not into the details, or not, that's whatever. I think this is a great opportunity to say, well, this is why we create teams around us, or we hire and we find the people that are into the details, so we don't have to miss that or be bad in that area. And so I think I just feel like saying, let's not make excuses. And this is a great opportunity, like details do matter, and let's
Mhm.
figure out a way that can become, if not our strength, at least it can be on our team in some shape or form.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's a great point because there's all types of wonderful, incredible minds out there and they don't all work the same way. And that's what
Mm,
gives us richness
yep.
as teams and as communities. And so it's important. But yes, ensuring that the minds that are like those ultra creative aesthetics, they can see the vision. And then like the detail person, the strategy person, like
Right.
all of that is needed
Yeah.
100%. And it's like you said, it needs to be a part of the team so that you are well rounded and covering all the bases for sure.
You said something earlier too here, where you're talking about, well, anybody could plan an event, but you and I were having a conversation prior to us actually jumping on this podcast that made me think here. We were talking about how much preparing time you have, and
Yeah.
how serious you take that. But you also brought up a word, and that was excellence. And that is one of your core pillars. And I just love that because you take your business very serious and you want to make sure that it's done with excellence. And I believe you also said something that you won't take on anything. Correct me if I'm butchering it here. You won't take on everything that you wouldn't if you don't think you could do it with excellence.
Yeah.
Uh, and so um, I love that. I love that. That's where you guys have been able to become, we'll say, experts, professionals. You're mastering your craft at, and And that's why it would be important to go to the professionals and say, hey, we need your help.
Yes, and excellence, delivering at a standard of excellence is something for Rebecca and I that is it is a non-negotiable. It is of the utmost importance to us. And when we're working with a client, we love to feel and almost integrate ourselves as part of their business, in the sense that, we want them to feel that we truly are invested, because we 100%, we care about them, about what they're doing, and about the excellent delivery of an event experience. And so when we are working on projects, we do want to be mindful of timelines and what else we have, like our capacity. And because we don't want, like, to your point, we won't take on a project if we truly don't believe that we have the capacity to deliver at the level that we hold ourselves to, because there's nothing worse for anyone in any situation if you are working with someone and you're made to feel less important, or that you're a back burner, and, almost that you're an inconvenience, like, oh my gosh, I have so much going on, I'm going to get to your stuff when I can. We do not ever want to make people feel that way. And so we do really try to be mindful of where we're at capacity wise and what else is going on. And can we take this project on and deliver it with that excellence, deliver it where we are going to be so proud, our client's going to be thrilled. And if not, then the answer is no. As much as we may want to take it on, we would never take on a project and under deliver and be embarrassed or ashamed of what we've been able to do. Like, we would not do that. We wouldn't want anyone to have that experience. So it wouldn't be something that we would take on.
I love it. I think you're making a case for why it's important to have core values. We talk about these boring things sometimes, mission statements, vision statements, all that. But when we do it well, and when we put the appropriate time into creating the proper culture in our business, as leaders, then you're able to know when the right time to say no is. Because if not, we become yes people. And I think we can agree that that can be chaotic at some point.
Absolutely. And I have it's somewhere on my desk here, I have a Post-it note that I have to have available, because I want to help people. And so my instinct is to always say yes. And so my Post-it is a reminder that is, don't agree in the moment, because I am trying, it's a work in progress, Walter, but I'm really trying to work on taking the step back to evaluate, is this the right opportunity? Like, do I have the time? Do I truly have the passion and interest, whether this is a personal or a professional project?
Right.
But giving myself the space to actually think about it and think about all of the factors of it and what it's going to mean to other things. And so I still have my moments where I fall back into old habits, but really trying to be reflective and consider things and think them through, instead of yes, and then being in that state of overwhelm, because that's not a healthy place for us to be operating out of. Nobody wants to be there. And so trying to be more mindful of that is something I'm working on.
Oh, that's great. Don't agree in the moment. I love that, because we live in a world where everybody wants us to live on their timelines, in their urgency. And if we don't take care of ourselves, and what you're encouraging us to do is hey, it's okay to pause, to reflect, think on that, and make the decisions after that, and make sure that it's going to actually be not only good for you, but good for whoever you're going to be serving, right? And so that is some great advice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a work in progress, and I still have my moments of falling into old habits, but it does make a difference. And it's like we've all had those times where we have agreed to something, and then whether it's the next day or the next week or a month down the road, you're like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have agreed to that. It wasn't fair to them. It wasn't fair to me, whether it's my interest level really isn't there, or I don't have the time to dedicate to it, or, there could be a multitude of reasons. And so I think it's easier to take that pause at the beginning than going back and saying like, I'm sorry, I overcommitted. And I mean, in some circumstances you can't go back, right? Like if you've committed on a project, those types of things. So thankfully I've not had that, but yeah, it's just it's easier to take the pause at the beginning than to go back. And I mean, I'm very big on accountability and transparency, and so I do want to be honest. If I've overcommitted to myself, I do want to be honest with people and say like, I'm truly sorry. I I'm over capacity and I should not have taken that on. And so I've done that. So that's why I'm really have tried to learn to get to the other side of it and assess it properly.
Having those honest conversations, and you're right. I mean, and you've mentioned it a couple of times already, a few times, that we're not perfect, right? We're going to make the mistakes. We're going to learn from that, and we're trying. But it's important to have those honest conversations, and because we grow out of that, and people end up going, well, I can trust her. I can trust him. You get to be a leader that is not only available, but they know their strengths and weaknesses, which is kind of in line with something that I've come to learn about you, is that you like to instill calmness, is what and it kind of goes in line with what you're kind of talking about, because it could be a very chaotic world, as I already said, and so to be a leader that practices calmness, it can be a gift to people. And so how has that been an important thing for you?
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of those, I guess, one of those things that, when people reflect back on you, the things that they know about you, and calmness was one of those things. So I guess I had, maybe it was just a lack of self-awareness for a long time. I just never really thought about that. And then as, in doing events, it was a common piece of feedback that I was getting from clients is like my calm demeanor and how much of a difference that made. And then like on event day, when it is a bustle of activity. Even when things are going perfectly, there is still so much going on that it's very easy for our anxiety and stress levels to go through the roof. And so when that was reflected back at me, I then like took some time to reflect. I'm like, okay, you know what? I do. And it's something that I've come to really appreciate about myself, is that ability to bring calm to chaos. And it's, I think, like just a part of who I am naturally, which is, obviously is a wonderful thing, is a benefit. But I think too, being mindful going into situations about that energy that we bring into a room or into a situation and how we show up. I'm a huge believer of that, right? Like we feel that, we sense that. It's what allows us to connect with some people, and the other people where it's not a match. And so I think being mindful of how I'm showing up into, whether it's a personal or professional setting, is bringing that with me and really trying to be as calm as possible, because it does make such a huge impact on everyone around me. And so it's something that as weird as it feels saying, when we're like, I like that about myself, I'll take that moment to say, I do. It's one of my, I guess, my personality traits that I do enjoy and I'm very proud of.
So true. I mean, I want to affirm that. I think it's very neat that you've been able to hear that from other people. What a gift. But I'm glad that you're owning it, because it is one of your strengths, and now you can live that out. And we talk about how you can impact people, and calmness can be contagious. And man, do we need that? We need that. And I love that you're stepping into it and you're claiming it and you're actually utilizing it. It's so good.
Thank you.
It's you're making me think about different strengths and things that we bring to the table, and I think it's good to name it, because when we name it, we can work on it. And so I wanted to shift our conversation just a little bit, though, because you have a big heart about giving back. And in fact, your philanthropic arm is called Giving Back. And so I think that everything that you've shared with us today, I think exemplifies that whole concept of giving back and caring for people. But you've gone the extra mile to make sure that that's part of your core value. And so, share with us a bit of the heart behind that.
Absolutely. So, yes, community and philanthropy is something that is so important to me, is so important to Rebecca. And so for our business to embody that value as well is natural. It just makes a lot of sense. And so um, our giving back arm of Be Together has really evolved over the last 6 or 7 years. So it started out as Elevate, which was a
Okay.
series of events that we put on. And really what it was is to, again, create a space for people to come together, to talk about the hard things, to learn, to hear other people's stories, and to be able to give back to the community. So the whole kind of like, I guess, premise behind it was to elevate yourself, elevate one another, and elevate community. And so over the years, we hosted monthly events, and we would give back to a different charity. And so that went on for many years. We touched on some challenging topics. We hosted events on mental health, on human trafficking, domestic
Mm,
violence, um, homelessness, anti-racism,
mm,
a lot of different areas. And really what it was is we wanted to do our best to create a safe space for people to learn, to ask the questions that
mm,
you need to ask to understand, but you don't know if you really like, can I ask this? And so it was important for us to create an environment where people can put up their hand and ask the question, because it's coming from a place of wanting to learn and wanting to understand. And so with that, all ticket sale proceeds would always go to a charity or nonprofit that was doing work on the front lines with that particular issue. And then it has evolved. And so, we will help out some organizations on some charities and nonprofits on some smaller events to help them arrange those events. And then last year, we were able to donate $8,000 to 4 different charities in the city. And that was such a proud and incredible moment for our team to be able to have that type of impact on organizations that are so close to our heart, that really matter to us. And so, yeah, as a business, I mean,
mm.
it is ingrained in us, and we really like, it's so important for us to show up and give support to these organizations in our community that are literally impacting the lives and the livelihood of so many people, and continuing to learn. Like, there's so much to learn as well. And so that's also something that's important to us, is trying to keep educating ourselves on the different issues and how we can show up and support, even beyond the financial measures. Like, how can
Yeah.
we show up and support and be a part of this initiative and make a difference? So it is a really important value to us.
Wow, that's amazing. In business, I mean, we're able to problem solve. We bring value to the market, but there's always more space and more room to use our influence. And the reality is that, yeah, when we are leaders, we have the opportunity to create impact, and we have the opportunity to influence others to join us and to give back. And so I love how you've made that a priority. And I'm going to say the word priority because maybe there's some businesses out there that are thinking about it, and maybe they're waiting for the right time, and for the ducks to line up in a row. But I want to encourage people to think, if you're the founder, the president of your company, like, what are you doing to give back beyond your business?
Mhm.
Would you agree with me on that?
Absolutely. I think it is so important that as businesses and as a business community, that we are showing up. And that showing up can be done in such a variety of ways. Obviously, like the one that we all know is the financial component of it. Of course, that's one of them. But we can volunteer our time. We can share resources and education that these organizations that we choose to support, that they are putting out there, sharing about events, attending events, learning. Like there are so many ways that we can be advocates and supporters and be involved and encourage our teams to be involved in causes that matter to them. Like it is something that is so important to me. And I think something that just speaks volumes about the people and the business. And I think again, going back to community, like we need to show up for one another. And so let's find that cause or that organization that truly speaks to our heart, and let's show up for them in the ways that we can. Like I understand that financial is not always something that everyone can do. And that is okay, because like I said, there's so many ways that we can show up and support and make a difference, and just not losing sight of that. I think it's something that we really should all be aware of, and like instilling in our families, in our workplaces as much as we can.
100%. And I mean, you've encouraged us throughout this whole conversation. I mean, you had even touched on volunteering in the beginning of this podcast. You're right. It's not always all about money. And we do have skill sets and talents and time. There's so much different other things that we can give. And we should give ourselves permission to say that if you're in a season where that's all you can give, a little bit of time, that is okay. And build to it, right? Build up.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And I think like it's anyone that's volunteered, that the personal satisfaction and fulfillment that you get from volunteering and showing up and making a difference, it is such a rewarding experience. And one of my biggest things would be to just encourage people, like find that cause, find that organization that speaks to you, because then you're going to want to show up for it. And the difference that you can make, and as you're seeing and connecting with the people that are involved in the organization, that receive the services of the organization, it just goes to further build and strengthen that, I guess, that resolve to be a part of what they're doing. And it really is such a special experience. And then the more that you learn, you're sharing with your network. So you're helping with the awareness and the advocacy just by volunteering, and then talking about what it is you support and what matters to you.
Yeah. I'm glad you're using the word advocacy. That's something I'm very passionate about too. And there's an advocate in all of us, and we just need to find what we want to advocate for. Now, for you specifically, is that human trafficking? Is that kind of the spot that really kind of gets you going and you're really fired up about?
It is. And so it's been, I guess it always feels weird when I say like my passion, because but the issue of human trafficking and the awareness around it is something that I am so personally committed to. It was one of those situations, one of those moments in life where you learn that something's happening. And, I truly think I feel like I try to stay up on the things that are happening and, aware and be educated. And the fact that I had no idea that human trafficking was happening in Canada, the moment I learned that was an issue, it truly floored me, and was one of those things where the more conversations I had with other people talking about it, that same reaction was happening. And so, it really got me thinking, like, how is something this horrible and this major happening in our country, and there's such a lack of general public knowledge around it? And one of those things, from that point, I dove into educating myself and connecting with organizations that are doing work in that area, hosting a variety of events around raising funds and awareness. And it's one of those things too, where every time I sit down to learn, there's more. And it's such a complex issue, and it is so overwhelming, but we need the voices there to make people aware of it and to really work in the fight against it, because it's such a prevalent, horrible human rights issue that I think there needs to be more done. And don't get me wrong, there are incredible organizations doing amazing work, and thank goodness for them and the people that are working with survivors. But like, I think general public, like, we need the awareness, and we need to really be taking a stand against it.
100% agree. There is, if you don't think it's happening in your backyard, you got to pause, because when I realized some of the stats too, it just floored me. And it's incredible how real it is, and how it's actually it is affecting somebody that we know potentially. And so I appreciate your heart behind all that. And can I just say thank you for working hard, and for the things that you've done in the past, whether that's through events or awareness or being an advocate. Thank you for doing your part. And I know that you're making an impact. And so thank you for sharing your heart on that.
I appreciate that, Walter. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, and I love when I hear leaders expressing their desire to do more, because we do have the potential to create an impact. And even if it feels like it's a small impact, the ripple will take off, and you just never know. You never know, right? And so we just got to try.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Very well said.
Oh. So I think you're a pretty amazing leader. There's a lot of things that you're doing with your company. You and Rebecca are doing together, and then even with the giving back and all that. Is there a leadership advice that has been given to you that maybe that you use often, or that kind of sticks to you, that you'd love to share with us?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I received is clear is kind. And what this means, it goes back to communication. And I know you touched on it earlier about the importance of communication, and really all of us it's a constant work in progress. And I once had a good friend and a business leader of mine said to me that's her mantra. And, when you really take the time, when you are going to be communicating with anybody, especially in those hard conversations, when you're delivering feedback or having those hard conversations where you really don't want to be having them, but they need to be had. And being clear on your point, and the kindness behind that, because number one, we're sharing what we are disappointed in, upset about, what a different way somebody needs to show up. We're communicating about that. We're not, shoving it down and building resentment and hostility and toxicity in that relationship. We're communicating it. We're sharing where we're coming from. We're being clear about what it is that we need to talk about, and then creating that opportunity for it to be improved, and hearing the feedback that comes back to us. And so that's kind of, it's a piece of advice that when I'm going into hard conversations, that I really do try to remind myself about, that clear is kind, because no one loves those difficult conversations. But if we can look at it from that perspective, and how oftentimes, even, for us, it's like when you get feedback, you're like, I had no idea. And so that them giving us that clarity so that we can grow and improve I think is something that, as leaders, for sure, is something that we need to be doing. But I think just in general, that clarity and communication, and in where we're at, and clarity of expectation, is really like allowing us to set people up for success.
100%. Jocelyn, the whole reason I got into leadership and all that, and development and all that, is because I think people matter. And when we actually strive to be better leaders, we make people better, we help them along the journey, but we also understand that we're not perfect, and there's going to be challenges and struggles. But when we work on things like what you just shared, being clear with kindness, like, oh man, like, there's just this beautiful synergy that takes place, where we show that we care about people, and we
Mhm.
actually want to journey with them, right? And yeah, in business, right, there's numbers, there's things, but I think that people matter on top of all that. And the funny thing is that if we take care of people, especially if you have employees or you work with people, they will take care of the rest. And
Yep,
so if we can prioritize people, right,
absolutely.
it'll be long lasting.
Absolutely. And that's such an important part of things, right? Is like you said, is like showing up, creating that space for people where they do feel safe, and you
Mm,
can have those conversations and we can learn and we can grow, and we're setting them up and putting them in the right places so that they can shine at their best.
right. Hmm. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That's so good. So you're on the It Matters podcast, and one thing I love to ask my guests is that what matters to you right now? Now, you shared a lot of great things today, and maybe you want to echo something you already said, or maybe there's something new. But in the season you're in right now, in this
Mhm.
stage of life, is there something that really matters to you?
I would say at this point, what matters to me is showing up. And
Mm,
what I mean by that is with all of life's ups and downs and changes and different seasons, the for me, reminding myself the importance of showing up as me and remembering what is important to me, those how I show up with my friends and family, how I'm showing up in business, how I'm showing up as an advocate in the area of human trafficking and issues that matter, and making sure that I'm showing up in a way that I can be proud of,
mm,
that allows me to be fulfilled. And I think the moments and times
mm,
in my life where I have felt the most fulfilled, I'm making a difference. I'm making a positive impact. And so reminding myself of the value of that in my life and the different ways in which I can show up and make a difference and have an impact, I think is for me, that's what matters to me right now.
uh, I love how you brought it back full circle. We talked about fulfillment in the beginning of this episode, fulfillment at the end, and I just I want to encourage everybody to hear these words that you just shared, and be intentional, and
Mhm.
don't coast through life.
Yes.
If you're not fully satisfied, um, be intentional. And I think that you just gave us a beautiful example in your life and in your business that when you become intentional, you then actually become a person of impact and somebody that actually can live in a state of fulfillment, and that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. And yes, intentional is my word for 2025, Walter. So that's perfect.
I love it. I love it. That's so cool. Well, there you go. This has been an amazing conversation. Is there anything that you want to share that maybe I didn't ask, or um,
No, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity, for this conversation. These truly are the conversations that light me up, like this ability to have some deep, meaningful conversations and go beyond the surface level. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for this conversation. And I really appreciate you and your time and this platform to talk and share.
I love it. I thank you for being so generous with your time and your wisdom. And so, on that note, I want to make sure that if anybody else wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Yes. So you can find all of my contact info. It's on our website, which is betogether.ca. And as we mentioned, that's BEE together.ca. And for sure, follow along on our Instagram, which is at betogether.ca.
Awesome, amazing. Yes, please go check out their website and what they're up to and what they're doing. And of course, we'll put that in the show notes so people can have access to that. And so, this has been a beautiful time. I want to thank you again for coming on the show, and just I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Walter. I feel the same and very much appreciate this time. Thank you.
And for everybody else out there, can you please rate this episode? comment on it, share it. I think you probably have somebody in your life that needs to hear the message that Jocelyn brought today, which was amazing and next level. And so please share it. Let us know what you thought about it. I would be more than happy to pass on the comments to Jocelyn as well. And if you maybe have questions for her, make sure you reach out. And, she's passionate about a lot of different things. And I'm sure that she would love to respond to you on that. And so I hope this episode made you better, because that's what we're trying to do here. And we know that as you get better as leaders, it's a win-win when the leader leads well. And so keep going on the journey, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.